And it looks like we're live. Welcome and welcome back to the enolve podcast, where we talk about problem solving. Now, why would we want to solve problems? We solve problems so that we can achieve our goals in life, right? To become successful. And for that topic, I have a superstar guest today who has taken the world by storm with her high energy events and her science-backed trainings and seminars. She's an award-winning international speaker and trainer. She has a PhD in psychology. She's been a #1 best-selling author 5 times and has also really worked with some of the biggest and most well-known companies in the world. Please welcome Dr. Erin.
Hi, Oliver. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being on. I'm really honored to have you here, and I actually look forward to learn how we can become as awesome as you are. And so
Oh,
for that, you said you would share with us some of the unusual strategies that people can learn for how to deal with negative thoughts that might come our way so that we can punch fear in the face. And you said this is also going to be based on neuroscience. So what's the insight you have for us?
oh my goodness. Thanks for having me again. I almost named my son Oliver. I love your name. And now I'm getting a puppy and I'm going to name it Oliver. So there we go. Well, Oliver, I always knew I wanted to be a psychologist since I was a little girl. I don't know why. I just knew. And I've been studying us humans ever since. And I think what is one of the most interesting things about our brain is it can almost appear like it is our enemy, and it's actually just doing its job. And so I think the first step is understanding that the brain's job is to look at everything that's ever happened to us, to make meaning of what's happened, to find patterns, to find things to keep us safe, to keep us from being rejected or being, failing or looking like a fool, as I like to say. And so that's a big problem when we're people that always want to keep growing. Because if we're growing into these things and places and people that we've never been before. And the brain's like, what are we doing? Uh-oh. So whatever it is you want to do in your life. I remember when I wanted to be a speaker and I had my first speaking event where I invited people and they came, and I was driving to the event and my brain is like, abort, like, what are you doing, woman? And it's just because of past learning, because I love speaking and I was happy to have that event. But so if the brain's job is to keep us safe, I think this is kind of the 4-step strategy. One is to say, I see what you're doing. I see the thought. You don't think I'm ever going to make it. You think I'm going to make a fool of myself being a speaker. The second thought is like, oh, it makes perfect sense you would come up with that because your sister always told you you were a terrible storyteller. So what are you doing, right? The third step is to actually thank our brain. Thank you, brain, for trying to keep me safe. I hear you. I know, I see what you're doing. I appreciate it. And then the fourth move is that pivot into what's different now. Why am I okay now? So the fourth move can be, it's okay. My sister's not here. I hired a speaking coach and I'm really good at speaking now. And so I think the less we fight with our brain and that we realize it's just doing what brains do, then we can have this observer stance of it and say, hey, like, you again? Okay, you were uninvited, but let's hang out and let's figure out what kind of relationship we want to have here, right?
Gotcha. That is such a good explanation. So those 4 steps really they're key. But first, I think it's more important to realize that exact problem that you outlined there, because what a paradox situation that I find myself in all the time as well, right? We're looking to grow, we're looking to achieve certain things, and obviously our brain wants that. It's almost like literally, I think our brain is split in half, right? That is actually what the anatomy is like. But we have these conflicting interests where on the one hand, we want to, move forward, achieve our goals, grow and do new things. But on the other hand, there's also these almost conflicting goals that seem to hold us back from that at the same time. And so I guess the strategy to success is how can you manage that and balance that. And so I like your 4 steps there that you outlined to go from just recognizing it to then being actually grateful for it and then turning it around into a productive problem solving. That's perfect.
Yeah, I
So
think, thanks, Oliver. I think old school in the 80s and 90s, we were told to try to look for all the reasons why our thoughts weren't real. Well, if I'm having the thought, I'm going to be a millionaire, my brain is like, nana boo boo, like you're a liar, 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 pants on fire. Like you've never been a millionaire before. What do you like? The odds aren't good, woman, you know? And so I think once we realized that we didn't have to fight back with our brain, and that we could say, well, that makes sense that you would think that it's not going to happen because it's never happened before. And I've been on this earth for 47 years. And this duality, like you're saying, Oliver, I love it. It's like, on the one hand, our brain lives in the land of probability. So what are the statistics? What's my batting average here at this thing? And also in the land of possibility. And so as adults, we can say, I'm safe now. I'm going to figure things out and move into the land of possibility. So I'm not looking just for data of whether I've been a millionaire yet. I'm looking for data of, have other people become millionaires? Could I learn from them? Could I do what they did? Yes. And so it's reckoning with, thanks for trying to keep me safe, and we're going to go over here and grow.
Love it. These are the exact things that I've been pondering. Exactly that, you know, conflict between the scientific method almost, right? Whereas science is all about, we want to be wrong. And science, we look forward to having something go wrong so we can figure out how the universe works. And, you know, that gives us data and insights. And from that, we can make predictions. But then the predictions in the future are just probabilities, because we can't actually predict the future. That seems to be impossible in the universe. That's awesome. What was it that, so you told me earlier you were always interested in psychology? Because I'm curious right now, what got you on this path that you were on, where you learned all these things and everything, and then you used it to actually have really great success in the business world in particular? What was your story like?
Oh, thanks for asking, Oliver. You know, I was never a businesswoman. I never even knew about business. I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was, I don't think, growing up. But I became a psychologist, had my own private practice for many, many years. And through a course of events, kind of hit my own emotional rock bottom in my life. And because of that, I had to kind of heal myself and grow myself into the version that you're seeing today. And in the course of that, I realized I wanted to work with people like you and me, people that were wanting to solve problems, people that were wanting to be successful. And I thought, again, kind of move from pathology to possibility. And so I just got really busy learning all about business and sales and marketing. And of course, the more you learn, the more you realize it's kind of all about psychology. And so within a year of starting my coaching business, I mean, Oliver, I had never been to a networking function, the kind where you eat chicken with strangers. Like, I had never been there. And I go to my first one, didn't know what to wear, didn't know what to say. And a year later, I am the saleswoman of the year of Nevada. And I was like, how the heck did that happen? And I think this story, when you think about it as a listener, I want you to pertain this to you. I looked back at that year and I said, what did I do? Like, I feel like I met a lot of humans. And I looked at my calendar and I'd gone on 213 coffee dates, Oliver. And that's not necessarily duplicatable, but what I did during the coffee dates is, and I realized all I knew how to do was be a psychologist. And what do psychologists do well? We listen and we ask questions. And so my goal kind of on the coffee dates was to talk as little as possible and to learn as much as possible about the person in front of me and how I could serve them and how, what lit them up and what they were excited about and what they were struggling with and what could I do to, you know, add value to them. And a year later, I'm saleswoman of the year. And to wrap up this story, I want to tell you this quick little story. We were up at Lake Tahoe, which is where we live, nearby with our little son. He was probably 5 at the time. He's looking through a telescope at Lake Tahoe, and Lake Tahoe's huge. And he sees this big boat on the other end of the lake, and he screams, "I see humans!" And I want you to realize that's the skill that will propel you in business. Do you really see humans? Do you know what they want? Do you not only know what they're struggling with, but do you know what their aspirations are, which is called marketing, by the way? Are you listening to their problems so that you can be like Santa and be like, what's on their wish list? Oh, I've got that in my bag. That's sales. It's all psychology, and it's all kind of channeling these skills that you all can channel, and not just me as a psychologist. So that was a long answer, but there's nuggets in there, I hope, that help people think about it.
I totally think there are, and that's a great point that you bring up, right? Like the human component of that, and that's why we always talk about psychology. And I mean, honestly, I'm kind of more of a person who's interested in things and like mechanisms, and I'm like more of an engineer's mind, and so I enjoy human company, but occasionally I just want to kind of introvert and play with stuff that doesn't behave like humans, that behaves like mechanics or something like that. And so that is really important to then not get trapped in that, especially if you're like a tech entrepreneur, an engineer or something like that. We've talked about that here on the podcast before, where some people, they just want to sit at their desk and do their job and not really deal with anybody. But you have to deal with humans, because the only reason businesses exist is to fulfill human needs and make sure our lives can transpire and everything. And I mean, sure, there's people who have strengths in different areas, but then that's really the kicker there. That sales and marketing component and how the psychology works around that. Once you realize that, and once you see that, it's like, to me, it really was the missing puzzle piece that that explains so many things that we see happening in the world. And it helps you understand yourself better. You kind of can do some soul searching there and figure yourself out better. And in this same turn, also connect with other people much better. Just like you said, right? If you go on those coffee dates, how do you know what to talk about? Are you even prepared to ask good question and bring valuable conversations, make valuable conversations happen? So that's, I really think, an important skill that people benefit from learning. And to me, you're like the living proof that this is possible and everything. I'm also curious to hear more about your books, actually, because in your process, you said you've published 5 best-selling books even. Are they also around that topic, or did you branch out, or can you tell me more about that? I'm curious to hear.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, they're about business. My solo book is called Mind Your Own Business, which is just, it's 21 days to train your brain for unstoppable success. And so it really was my attempt to kind of pull together 30 years of scientific research of, I'm really into high performance. And so what that means to me is, you're functioning at the top of whatever it is that you're doing in the world. You stay there for a long period of time. So you can stay there for decades, 20, 30 years. How do people do that? That's fascinating to me. How do they not crash and burn, right? High performers also have the best health on the planet. So they're not reaching success at the expense of their health. And they also have the best relationships. They also feel the most joy. I mean, we want joy. They feel the most confident, and they're the most engaged. So they feel their day. They're not just going through the motions. So there's actually scientific studies. I love the engineering brain of like, we actually know how to become a high performer. I know exactly how to make you a high performer if you are coachable. Like, this is not a mystery. It's just science. And I love applying that to people's lives. And so that was my attempt to put all of that into that one book. And I've written on things, what does self-love have to do with business? There was a whole bunch of us women entrepreneurs here in Reno, and we wrote a book called Reno Rising, which was all about our journey of how did we become successful businesswomen. And so it's just been, Tony Robbins says the greatest way to get to someone is through a book, because no other way can you be in bed with them for 6 hours. And I'm like, that is hysterical, right? So everyone would send me pictures of them in bed with my book because I would say that, and it was really funny. So yeah.
That does sound like an amazing book, though. The blueprint to to become a high performer and achieve all those benefits, and that sounds interesting. We'll definitely be sure to drop a link to that below in the comments, and hopefully the rest of your library as well. We don't even have time to talk about all the other books and everything. There's so much to go into. What I'm curious about is, what's it currently look like if somebody would want to work with you one-on-one? Is that something you do, or do you hold events or speeches, or what's it look like to start working with you?
Yeah, I love, 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 love coaching. And whether that's life coaching or business coaching, it's always been hard to put myself in a box. And I hear time and time again from my clients that I wanted a coach, but I also wanted a psychologist, but I didn't know if I was bad enough to go to a psychologist, but I really wanted a coach. And there you were. And I'm like, I really am all in one, right? And I happen to be a sales, award-winning saleswoman. And so, you've got that too. And so sometimes people just come to me and it feels a lot like therapy, which they need, and so we make it really individualized. But you can just go to talkwithdrerin.com and we can hop on the phone and talk about what you're looking for and see if we're a good fit or not. Yeah, talkwithdrerin.com.
Easy enough. That sounds really good. We'll be sure to drop that in the comments below. Awesome. Yeah. And I really resonate with that because, coaching, life coaching, business coaching, sales and marketing, they all have this commonality and everything. And so it's great to have an expert like you with experience in the field, but also the academic training that sounds, sounds highly valuable. One last thing, if you can wrap it up for us, maybe with some insight or some action step that you want somebody to take away with who's watching this right now. What is like the thing that you would encourage somebody who's inspired by our conversation here?
Look at me, I get all excited. I didn't know you were going to ask this. So this is what I have you do. This is what's going to change your life and bring you happiness. That's a big promise. It's a big promise. And this is it. And this is where people get it wrong. Okay. I want you to start with your identity. And what do I mean by that? I want you to write down all the words that would describe you as your best self, your highest self, your most ideal self. And then I want you to whittle it down to 3. If you had to choose, you can change your words if you want, but 3 words, mine are right up there: fit, free, and aligned. And here's what I want you to do. That's called your identity. Everything needs to be run by that. I want you consulting with your ideal self on a regular basis. I want you to imagine she or he is sitting right next to you at all times. And your job is to say, what would you do? What would you order off the menu? Would you go to the gym? Would you make your sales calls? What would you do? Would you stretch yourself here? And when you are living in integrity and behaving in line with your values, which is your identity, you will love yourself. You will be confident. You will have self-esteem. You will find personal success because it's defined by you and only for you. So that's my nugget. I hope that serves you all so well.
I love it. It's such a good description. I wish I had that
memo when I was like 20. I mean, I didn't get that memo till, I don't know.
So nice that you give us a shortcut to get a lifetime worth of lessons in this short bit. And it's really great description. I like it. It really ties into what we're working on here with enolve as well. We call it our terminal goals. So you just really wrap that into just a few minutes here. I'm impressed. Amazing. So good talking to you, Dr. Erin. Thank you so much for being on here. And
see you soon.
Hopefully everybody's going to reach out to you with the links in comments below. I sure will check out your books and your library, and love your vibe, love your energy. Thank you so much.
Thank you for solving the problems of the world, Oliver. Bye, everyone.
Trying our best.
Solving the problems.
Take care.